What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm BLAIDEN Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matt Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're going to go over some NFL free agency previews a little bit. We have a few guys we want to talk about. And then I think we want to talk about the NFC West. Not necessarily a prediction for the teams there, but just kind of an over-under based on some of the Vegas odds at this point. And then we're going to finish things off with another Rank It. And today's Rank It is video games. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a ton of fun. But before we get into it, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm good. I started doing my record predictions the other day starting with the Cardinals. So I'm glad that we're starting with the NFC West, since I have a lot to say about that team. And really all the NFC West teams are pretty prominent franchises. So that'll be exciting. And I won't get cooked in the comments in this episode because I'm actually recording in my apartment for once. Last time people seemed to think I was in a bathroom or a insane asylum. I was in Edit Bay at my school, or my old school, the Cronkite School of Journalism. So I'm feeling good.
It's great to have like just a normal Theo today. It really is.
It's rare.
Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Just all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
This dude Matt is struggling, I fear.
What the hell are you talking about?
He says he's fine.
I'm also
splendid.
I'm also doing record predictions, but I started in the AFC. So when I found out we were doing the NFC West, I quickly had to finish my NFC West predictions just to have those ready. But make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel for tons of great content. Matt and I are going to be live Saturday killing the Ender Dragon. It'll be part 2 of that.
Did you already get there?
No, we're not even at the Nether yet.
Oh.
So we're pretty far behind. And then Sunday night, I'm going to be live previewing my album because that drops on Monday. So very, very exciting stuff coming to the YouTube. And as always, make sure you join the chalkboard, because if you want to participate in stuff like the Rank It, the question of the week, if you want to talk about music, if you want to talk to us about games that are going on across all sports, that's all in the chalkboard. Link is going to be in the description and in the bio of pretty much all of our social platforms. But let's just hop in to some NBA free agency. Theo, you had a few guys you wanted to talk about. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I had a list of some of the fits that I think are best and some of the moves that I want to see some teams make. So I guess my first one has to do with Ayton again, which we've talked about a million times. But the more I'm looking at it, right, I'm thinking like the Pistons seemed like a pretty good spot before the draft, especially. But the way they've been kind of filling their roster with guys like Nerlens Noel and that cap space going down, I'm not totally sure that they're. I'm not as sure as I was, or as confident as I was a week ago, that move is still happening. The Hawks reports are that they're hesitant to give Ayton the max. So what I thought of is Ayton to Toronto in a package surrounded by like OG Anunoby or something like that. I think when you look at what that would do for the Suns, first of all, I mean, that roster would be so flexible with all these like good shooting, kind of bigger. And they would look a little bit like our Raptors with a lot of like 6'8" about like flexible forwards, whether that be Anunoby or Bridges or Crowder or Cam Johnson. I think that would give them a lot of flexibility, and they could defend smaller lineup. They could just erase smaller lineups, and they could look. And Booker's not short himself. I think he's like 6'6". So I think you'd be able to have a really creative defense. You'd have high level offense in that situation. And, you know, OG Anunoby has been injury prone, but that's a really good player right there. And I think you could put forward some just killer lineups if you're Phoenix with that. And then either sign a big man or just roll with Saric or JaVale McGee. And hope things work out. But I don't think that would be a weak defensive lineup. I think that would be pretty good. And for Toronto, you look at what they are, and yes, having no one above the height of 6'9" is great. And you know, the way Nick Nurse uses them, it's fun. But if you look at their half court offense, they rely heavily on mid-rangers. and they're not that good at shooting them. So that means that they had one of the least efficient half-court offenses. And just having someone like Ayton, who you could feed in the paint, would really go a long way for them, I think. And he's a quick defender, and he can, Nurse, I think, would be a coach who could get the most out of Ayton. I think that you need to be kind of a good culture and a motivating, squad to kind of take Ayton on. And I think that works for both sides, and would be a trade, especially if no one is really too high on paying Ayton. If Toronto could get him for maybe even a little bit of a discount, I think that would be attractive for both teams.
I think OG and a max is pretty expensive for Ayton. And I would say I have him written down as my first thing. I have him going to Detroit for Nerlens Noel.
Okay.
I think that if Detroit's plan at center, I like Jalen Duren as much as the next guy, but if you have a chance to go get a player like Ayton, you don't let a Jalen Duren, like a late lottery pick, stop you from doing that, right? I think that's just bad team philosophy. So, they still have $26 million in cap space, so trading Noel gives them the money. I also, it's hard to tell which players are going to be willing to go to Canada to play.
True.
So there's that question too. And maybe I could see the Trailblazers going after Ayton as well, but I have them going to Detroit. And with Nerlens Noel, it'd feel like you're getting a serious center back if you're the Suns. And you're not just going to go try to pick somebody up out of free agency, because I like Noel pretty well.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I think OG, the Suns getting him would be about his best case scenario in terms of the player they're going to get. Now that Durant is off the table or something like that. Not that was ever probably too realistic, but I digress.
Kyrie blew it.
Yeah, so that's definitely... But I guess what I'm trying to say also is, I would like to see Toronto get a bigger guy, just because I think they need someone. 100%. They need someone to feel like. I love their strategy was super cool and their success was admirable. But someone that you can feed a big guy eventually, unless you have a James Harden in his prime type of player who can just make threes and jump shots at this crazy rate. Having someone then you can afford to have PJ Tucker as your 5, right? But if you don't have a guy like James Harden, it just is really hard to be efficient without a big guy like that in the post. And if Toronto wants to move to Ayton, they have plenty of young pieces that they could do to get him. So that's one of mine.
Yeah, but then I do kind of agree with Matt where it's sending OG might be a little bit much if you're also having to pay him the max. That is the one thing.
I wonder if Ayton, I wonder how much Ayton is, if Ayton, it just doesn't seem like there are too many teams right now. The Hawks aren't willing to give him the max.
Is there any other reason why Ayton is leaving besides money at this?
And I'm not particularly. It's a money thing. There's a lot that goes into that. And you kind of have to look at it trades and free agency are kind of the same thing rather than two really separate things. So it's the money and the assets, you got to all look at once. So it's if nobody else is willing to give Ayton the max, and that's the upper hand that Toronto has, it's going to be pretty hard to get OG Anunoby, who's this really great player, away from them. I don't know exactly how much OG Anunoby's making, but it might be a little bit too much.
I think it's about $17 million a year or something like that.
There's also, and I have no idea about this, so don't quote me on it, but if Canada has higher income tax, which they may, then a higher contract in Canada might actually not be more money. And on top of that, players just have a real hard time going to a different country. It's a pain in the butt.
I don't think the income tax would hurt that bad, just because once you get to different countries, then it's the cost of living also changes. So that might play a role as well.
Stay Hot discusses world politics.
Stay based.
I would say I don't think it's unreasonable for Toronto to make a push for Ayton.
Okay.
At all.
Maybe
100%.
Precious.
I think
It doesn't have to be OG. It doesn't have to be OG. It can be Precious or whatever. Right. This is a hypothetical. But anyway, we've talked about Aiden a lot.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Don't need to beat a dead horse.
I'll give you one that I think is kind of, it's maybe a little like, it's Mo Bamba to the Lakers, actually, I think makes a lot of sense. Okay. I think that would be a very strong move. And I know it's like, Mo Bamba in the Lakers, oh my God. But I think he's a little bit younger, but I honestly don't think that's a bad thing for a Lakers roster that's incredibly old.
No, not at all.
And he's a little bit inexperienced, sure, and like he is a little bit of a project. But what you're getting in return is somebody who has definitely the potential to be a pretty nice five and pretty good with interior defense. And it allows Anthony Davis to go to the 4, and it allows them to run 5 out because Mo Bamba can shoot. And that would be a big deal because the big problem is that you need you need Anthony Davis at the 5 so your spacing isn't ruined when you have if it's like Anthony Davis at the 4 who's already been questionable shooting in recent years, and you have Westbrook and then you put Dwight Howard out there. That's not a serious lineup. Mo Bamba at the 5, and he's not like Karl Anthony Towns, but he can sit in the corner and space the floor out. I think that'd be a big deal and allow Anthony Davis to do a little bit more of what he likes.
I like it. I like it.
You cannot have the Lakers lineups you were running last year.
No,
that can't happen again.
And that's what they need. They need to find role players who make their life a little bit easier when it comes to making these lineups, because they just put themselves in like impossible situations where it's like, here's 6 players and not a single one of them can be on the floor with any others, or it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah,
it's like LeBron has to play 48 minutes at 38 years old.
Right.
Like,
so you got LeBron, and this is how you end up with LeBron at the 5 at 37 years old. So
yeah, they can't go with the LeBron's friends strategy again this year. They can't just go with guys LeBron knows from the Olympics in 2008 anymore. So yeah, I agree. And it's just, I think, generally good for the culture to have some like young talent in there as well. Instead of just being like these old.
You got 82 games. Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. Another role player that I like, and maybe this is just horrific just based on like you're rolling the dice so much with injuries, but Otto Porter to the Pelicans I think is good. The Pelicans are in a spot where they've got the high end firepower to be, I mean, really making noise in the West. Like if things go perfectly, Zion stays healthy and maybe even gets better, like as he enters his prime.
Yeah.
Same with like they've got the duo that could like make it out of the West. But they've got to fill in the cracks, I think, with some role players. Their 3-point shooting in the regular season last year was actually towards the bottom of the league. Otto Porter has been a really nice role player for years. Career 40% 3-point shooter, so he's actually knocked down Porter, McCollum, Ingram, Zion. Like you're getting into some nice territory if you can fill in some of these cracks with role players. If you could get Porter at a discount with his injuries, yes, you're really, really an injury prone team at that point. But I think if it works out, it would be a really nice get for any team, especially a team like the Pelicans who are right there and just I think need some championship culture, maybe coming from the Warriors. Like a guy like James Jones said this about the Suns, import some winning here, import some. I truly believe like it is good to have some guys.
That matters to an extent.
Who've been around like these like championship, like not that it is going to change them top to bottom, but it is good. And for a team like the Pelicans who have historically not been super, super successful. So that's where I'm at. I think that would be a nice little role player free agent signing that I would like to see.
I like it. I like it. They definitely can use the spacing. Pretty flexible player, not a dud on defense. So
yeah, for sure.
It makes their lineups just a little bit easier and that's my big problem with the Pelicans is maybe some of their lineups get a little tricky on exactly how they're going to work. So anything again to like make your life easier when it comes to that stuff and have role players who are easy to put out on the court. I would agree 100%.
Yeah. But the big thing with the Pelicans is still You need Zion to stay healthy.
It's the biggest wild card next year because that's a good point. He could be way better and play 82 games, or he could be about the same and get hurt and play like 30. And he could be a top 10 player next year. It really would not be that surprising. Or he could play 15 games. Like, who knows, right? So it'll be interesting to watch. But I agree. Right. They are kind of – there's a world where the Pelicans really, really, really beat expectations next year.
Well, speaking of teams that might beat expectations, can we talk about Colin Sexton and how him returning to the Cavs will be a net positive? Because it will be.
Yeah, I think Sexton, that's another guy that I wrote down. Like, if you look at the Cavs and you look at I think their defense is there, right? Mobley and Jared Allen. Like, they've got all these.
No, their defense was nice. Their defense was one of the best in the league last year.
But they were 20th in offensive rating is what they were in the regular season last year. So if they've got this guy, Sexton, who's just like a 24 points per game scorer, just sitting there on their team, like without a ton of other interest in the league, like re-sign him, man. Like, I know that there's problems like on defense, but I mean, the last time we saw Sexton and Garland play together, Garland was not the guy that he is now, right? He got he got much, much better. So, and it's not unreasonable to think Sexton could take a similar leap, and this could be like a really elite guard. Like, you need some offensive firepower on the cat. Again, 20th in offensive rating. If Mobley takes a leap and Sexton takes a leap and Garland takes it, like, that could be a really good young core. And I think Sexton's a part of that. And I think that he's not going to be like a crazy expensive. I mean, he's almost at a discount right now. It's like I think people would be surprised to learn that he averaged as much as he did the last time we saw him play a full season.
I remember when it was like Colin Sexton and Garland were first playing together. Everyone was like talking about how bad Garland was. And, Sexton was the guy. And then Sexton got hurt. Right. And Garland became the guy, and he really took that step forward. And now everyone's kind of dissing Colin Sexton as if like we don't need him anymore. And I'm like, bro, imagine if we had both of those guys, we'd be nice.
I think the big concern that people have is that Sexton doesn't move the ball well, and he's kind of just a guy who maybe goes out and hits his own shots. But the thing about that is that like that would make maybe some sense. But then they went out and traded for Karis LeVert, and it's like, dude. I think that even if you think the fit is bad, and I don't, because you're right, he scored 24 points a game very efficiently.
Right.
Even if you think the fit's bad, I think it's just smart business. If he's, being underrated right now, sign him and let him, figure it out for a year. And then if you got to move him and it doesn't work, cool. You can do that, and you should be able to move him because he is a very nice player. And you see similar players all the time where it's like not super strong defensively, maybe not like a crazy passer, but can go out and get their own shot. You see guys like that get paid all the time. Yeah,
and even if you pay him and he doesn't work out as like a starter, I mean, you can move him you could move him as a 6-man, and I promise you that Colin Sexton is going to be a nice scoring option. Like, that is his floor coming back from injury, is like a really good scoring option off the bench. And I think his ceiling is like a very, very good shooting, like a very high scoring threat and number 2 for Garland. I think and LeVert is 6'6", so you can have, and Colin Sexton's 6'1". I know.
Let me ask you this right now: Colin Sexton or Jalen Brunson?
Ooh, like seriously, I think that it's similar, and one is about to get like a bag from the Knicks, who have like moved heaven and earth to get themselves in a position to sign Jalen Brunson. And like, you've got Colin Sexton right there, who has done like a similar thing last time we saw him healthy. And you could like, both of those players, I think, are, good shooting guard number 2s that haven't proved themselves to be elite yet. But one is like the sole focus of an entire NBA franchise right now. And one is like, he could be all right, So like, I would, maybe I'd take Brunson just because of the defense and, whatever, but it's close. I think it's close.
After this record, I might just take a stab at Cavs Twitter real quick and just kind of gauge how they feel about Sexton right now. Because I feel like the Sexland hype has died down a little bit.
I think they want him to resign just so Sexland can remain a little buzzword and a little nickname for them.
It's a great bit. It's a great bit.
It is a good bit. Matt, do you have any other ones? I've got one more.
I had Gary Payton the second to the Mavericks. I saw that rumored, and I'm like, yeah, they could use a little bit more defense. Having somebody out there who can go out there and really grind on defense is maybe something that they don't have enough of. And, he can shoot and whatever, and he probably wouldn't cost that much, so it's reasonable for them. But that's a pretty minor move.
Mine was also a Maverick move, and that was TJ Warren to the Mavericks.
Yeah,
he's someone we haven't seen him really since the bubble when he was fantastic. But the last 3 seasons that he's been healthy, he's averaged 19, 18, and 19 points per game. If you're going to lose Brunson to the Knicks, which right now, you've got to seriously consider the the possibility of happening. You can't get who are you going to pair alongside Luka then? You can't. You're there. You were in the Western Conference Finals last year. You can't just it's going to be really hard to get much better at this point. I feel like with this probably isn't going to be the biggest off season when it comes to these big stars moving, changing teams. But you can't get objectively worse. So if that were to happen, TJ Warren has proved to be a pretty nice scoring threat, a pretty nice, maybe not a number 2, but someone who can be that combo guard alongside Luka. And I think, Luka can make him efficient. And I think you can get 80% of the production of Brunson with TJ Warren potentially at a fraction of the cost because of his injuries these past 2 years. I think I'd like to see that.
I like that. I like that a little bit more, Theo. I agree with you, Matt, that their defense was kind of an embarrassment at times. But if you're gonna lose Brunson, it's so important. I think the offense is a little bit more important, and that we talk about why the MVP always goes to the the most offensively valuable player. I just think that might be more important to acquire.
I disagree pretty hard, honestly.
Okay.
I think that even with Brunson gone, you have got a lot of guys who are going to have to take shots on that team regardless. Dinwiddie, to an extent, you're getting Tim Hardaway Jr. back, which is kind of a guy who he wasn't playing last year. So now that guy's going to get an offensive workload. You just traded for Christian Wood, and you certainly didn't do that because of his defensive prestige. So he's going to have to eat too. And then obviously you got Luka. So I kind of think that they have a lot of guys offense. I think it's a very strong offensive team still, and that's what they've invested in so far. With Warren, I don't disagree. For what he does, he is nice, and some team is going to take a gamble on him offensively, maybe the Miami Heat or something. They always pick up these guys, and they always do better than you expect. But I think signing another guy who is a pretty, decent offensive player is kind of something that maybe the Mavericks already have too many of. And he is incredibly injury prone, and he isn't a strong defender. So I don't know if it's the best fit for them.
Yeah. I think at this point that his cost, I don't think he's going to cost that much money at all. And I think for the price, as a 1-for-1 Brunson replacement, it's worth taking a shot on. And if it doesn't work, they still are open to if there's too many good scorers, there's always trades that you can make to burn some brush, a little brush fire to kind of get some of these guys out of here. So if it's super expensive and it ends up people look at his 2020 production and be yo, 19.8 points per game on 58% effective field goal percentage. That's crazy. We're going to take a big gamble. Yeah. I don't think the Mavericks should just be bidding all they have on him. But, if the league's passing him over, I think as a 1-for-1 Brunson replacement, it makes sense in my head. But I also get where you're coming from, where it's Hardaway and all these other guys, can. No,
it 100% comes down to a price thing.
Yeah. Would you like to see him anywhere? What other teams? I'm trying to think of, if not the Mavericks, if TJ Warren.
It depends on how much he's willing to sign for. If he's looking for the full mid-level exception, that makes it a little bit tougher. If he's willing to go, hey, I want a little prove it deal. I'm 29 years old and I can be serious. I want to go contend. I'd like to see him maybe on Milwaukee. I think that would be cool.
That's cool. Yeah, that would be fun.
They could use the shooting desperately.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to rely so much on Drew Holiday's offense come playoff time, maybe. And
see, imagine a world where it wasn't like Middleton goes down and all of a sudden it's like Grayson Allen, please, you're our only hope. It's TJ Warren instead. That'd be a cool team, but I haven't looked at their exceptions. I don't know if that's possible or what they're looking at.
Yeah, but
taking a look at some of the other guys that might be coming back. Bradley Beal returning to the Wizards.
Bad.
At some,
they're paying him $250 million over 5 years. Yeah, that's not good. I'm afraid that is something that a team that just can't draft does, and just can't develop players does. It locks up so much of their money for so long. And Bradley Beal's a very nice player, but he's not a number one on like a great team or anything. And that's fine. Like almost nobody is, but they're going to be locking up like.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, I'm just saying they're going to be locking up like $80 million over the next like couple years into Kristaps and Bradley Beal, and that team does not have a super great direction right now. And I don't think signing Bradley Beal super long term as he's entering his 30s is a move that's going to end up aging well.
Yeah, imagine we're 4 years from now, we sort contracts from like most to least, and like there at the top, it's a 34-year-old Bradley Beal. What are the chances we're like, wow, I can't believe the Wizards got such a steal for that. Like, what a deal that aged well. I don't see it. I wonder if they're or go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, and he's not exactly coming off like his best season ever, too, and an injury. It's like, dude, and they just did this. Granted, the John Wall stuff just didn't go the way you wanted it to with the injuries, but like, guys,
yeah.
I wonder if they're going to try to pair him with like D'Lo or something like that, because these guard duos where they're like, oh, when we had Wall and we had Wall and Beal, we made the playoffs. When we had Westbrook and Beal, we made the playoffs. Like if we get our backcourt looking like that, it's a playoff bid. So I wonder if they'll like reach on someone like they were already in the rumors for Brogdon, and like I wonder if D'Lo becomes available if they would pull the trigger on that.
They just made that trade with the Nuggets.
Oh, did I miss something?
They traded KCP and Ish Smith for Monte Morris and Will Barton,
yes,
which is not a bad move.
Yes,
that's not terrible.
Shout out Ish Smith for breaking the record of most NBA teams played on in a career. He's played on 14 of the 30 Hornets NBA teams.
Legend.
Well, he has to play. He has to play one game first. He has to play a game first.
Certainly he will. I actually do really like him. I think he's fun to watch. But yeah, I don't hate that move. And like, honestly, like the Wizards don't like, it's not every single move the Wizards make is stupid. Like they have some like pretty solid role players, honestly, but locking yourself into this team is a playoff loss or a play-in
right.
loss.
It's like, what are you playing for here? Like, could this be a play-in team?
That's my thing is I'm like, what's the long game here? Right? Is there a vision at all?
Luck into a playoff win so you don't get fired. Right? Like luck into hit on one of these rookies maybe and just try not to get fired for as long as possible. That's the long-term idea here.
I guess.
No one is coming to play in Washington. We can't hit on any of our draft picks. We are the worst team in basketball if we let Bradley Beal go. We just need to do something to keep our jobs.
That's crazy.
Beal is the only thing worth paying. He's the only guy that is going to prioritize signing with us. What else are we going to spend money on? I don't want to rebuild because that means we're all gone. Yeah, that's probably what it means.
Yeah. I'm looking at my phone right now, and it's league rumblings of a potential DeAndre Ayton trade to Brooklyn. I think that's unbelievably unrealistic.
What?
I'll be 100% honest.
I think that Yeah, I don't think that Brooklyn would be like already this big three has not really worked out the way they would like it to devote even more resources into this core is like a little dicey right now. I think like right now you've just got to see the way that it plays out, all three of them. I still think that they've got the ceiling of a title winner with Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons. I think that still could win a title, but it's so unlikely at this point that it's like, let's have those three work out first and see if it's possible before like adding even more to a ship that is like not quite floating the way you thought it was. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they're already paying like, and I keep seeing this rumor. Right? It's logistically it's like nearly impossible to get it to work. Like I'm looking at the trade right now, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, they're already paying. You know, when you sign and trade for someone, like there's a limit on how much you can. There's a hard cap, and it's like if you're paying Kyrie Irving $40 million and Kevin Durant $40 million and Ben Simmons $35 million, and you're paying 8, like you don't have money for the 8 and max, and I don't know. I think it'd be pretty hard to get it to work out. Although, I mean, like from like on the court standpoint, it'd be very cool. But
it would be.
Yeah, I agree.
Another team that maybe we might see struggling to work out is the 76ers. I
heard that Harden might decline his player option and then come back so they can get like PJ Tucker or something was the rumor that I saw was
so
like.
Wait, come back on like a cheaper deal?
Perhaps, yes. I think, and I'm trying to remember exactly the logistics of what it was.
It's like, so here's what I get. It seems like the 76ers are like all in this year. Because that PJ Tucker deal is 3 years, $10 million. It's like PJ Tucker's going to he's going to get an AARP card before the end of that contract. He's going to be 40 years old. Literally, he's going to be 40 years old at the end of that contract.
That's crazy.
And maybe he's one of those guys, but Harden opting out and taking a longer contract. I mean, at the end of that, he's going to be really old. So it seems like they're really making the push now if that's their game plan. I mean, and you're just kind of it's literally all a gamble if James Harden can be better than he was last year. I think that's pretty much what you're living and dying by. You can do whatever other little move you want, but it's that or like Tyrese Maxey takes a ridiculous step, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then you also need Embiid to stay healthy. Like, that's another. It's like just like the Pelicans. It's right. It's like you need Embiid to stay healthy. Right, you can't have just like the random fluke injury that he had in the playoffs last year.
They remind me a little bit of the Packers. They remind me like their window. I mean, at least the Packers got a Super Bowl, but I look at the 76ers and I look at the Packers and I'm like, that Super Bowl window seems kind of closed, but yet still like they got to hold on just because as long as they have Rodgers, they've got a chance. As long as they've got Embiid, they've got a chance. Like it really doesn't feel like it's happening at this point, but it's as long as they've got that Embiid and Harden duo, it could. And you know what did they work so like the whole process era has led to this like opportunity. They've got to elongate it as long as they can, I think, and just keep running back. So
I love the idea of Embiid, Harden, and Maxey. If Maxey can take a step, and if they're going to be in the market for a PJ Tucker, like that wouldn't be a bad addition to the team.
Or Jay Crowder, or something like that, or some sort of like point of attack. Yeah. But
I mean, it would be a net positive, but like, the 76ers are just like, man,
I actually don't think it's really like that crazy. You're just hoping that James Harden did play good for the 76ers last year. He just has to be like that. Maxey's a year older. You fill out the role players, you run it back, and then you cross your fingers for injury luck. Yeah. Which every single team has to do that. And they just hope you get a nice pass to the playoffs. It's not unthinkable for the 76ers, but their only option with James Harden is to bring him back. If you let him walk, you're cooked. That's a give up move.
No, I do think I do think part of like Harden's collapse in the playoffs was like, he hadn't really been with the team that long, and I know he had looked good in like spurts in the regular season, but like, how long was he with the team? Like 3 months.
It's the hamstring thing I'm worried about. He definitely he just does not have the same burst that he did.
Well, no, I mean,
but that doesn't mean
how old is he right now? Like, of course he's not going to have the same burst.
Right.
Well,
right?
there's guys in the NBA
even
who
LeBron,
well, I don't know, man. He kind of has a lot of burst.
He's not jumping out the building.
LeBron has
anymore.
a lot of burst, but he doesn't he didn't have the same burst that he did. He was
I guess, but Harden has fallen off in a way that was a little bit more noticeable than Chris Paul. It's a little bit more noticeable than LeBron James. It's a little bit more yes, of course every athlete gets worse, but there's like a certain cliff. And it's like you kind of worry that Harden is.
And he also doesn't take care of his body the same way that like LeBron does.
Maybe. Oh yeah, probably not. But anyway, that's probably our NBA. We'll see what actually comes to fruition. But those are kind of what I would like to see. We're kind of speculating at this point. But we want to talk about the NFL a little bit.
I would.
Yeah, we're taking a look at the NFC West, giving our prediction. Well, not really. So we'll go team by team over under. Yeah, we're not going to give a hard prediction right now.
Yeah, I don't want to give a hard prediction. I don't want to say a number. I don't want to say I predict I will eventually. But this is just kind of like where we're at on all of these teams and like maybe the order in which they finish within their division and just kind of general feeling on things. And then obviously Vegas has their odds. So, are we feeling like they're going to underwhelm or over or surprise, I suppose.
So we're taking a look at the NFC West. Again, we're just going to go by Vegas odds, see if they'll underperform, overperform, or maybe just meet expectations if it will be that simple. So I think we just start. Do you want to start bottom to top or top to bottom? Based on Vegas
we
odds.
don't know. We don't know what the.
I'm saying Vegas based on Vegas odds.
Makes no difference to me.
You choose.
All right. We'll start bottom of the Vegas odds. Has Seahawks at 5.5 wins. Matt, how are you feeling about Seattle?
I'm probably not as low on the Seahawks. I think they can get to 6 wins. I think that's within the realm of possibility. You look at that offense, it's like, okay, well, they lost Russell Wilson. That's not good, but they did invest a lot in the offensive line. I really like Charles Cross. And then you look at their weapons, and it's like, man, they're kind of like, you have Noah Fant, you have Tyler Lockett, you have DK Metcalf. We're big Kenneth Walker fans on here. And I think that there's a possibility where like Geno Smith or Drew Lock or Baker Mayfield is like a serviceable, like 20th best quarterback, and their offense is actually not that bad. Like, yeah, they're a team that's definitely going through a rebuild. You don't trade your star quarterback without doing that a little bit, but you can still see the way that offense can win.
Oh yeah, I think their running game is going to be so good next year. There were three teams that had over 5 yards per carry last season, and it's 2 that you'd expect. It's the Browns was 1; they were at 5.1, and then the Colts was the other. Right, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, good offensive lines.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, that doesn't surprise you. And then it was Seattle. And last year, 40% of Seattle's carries, like from running backs, came from DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, Adrian Peterson, and Alex Collins. All right.
I forgot.
Alex Collins is nice though. Don't sleep
he's
on Alex.
Yeah, but like if you replace those carries with Kenneth Walker carries,
right?
That's big time. That's big time. I don't care that running backs don't matter.
Right. No, they do a little bit. And the Seahawks are a good example as to why. I mean, Rashad Penny averaged 6.8 yards per carry or something last year, something ridiculous. Alex Collins behind the same offensive line averaged like 3.6. Like it was like complete flip flop. Right. And so if you've got Penny as the lead back for the for a full season, and then those 40% of other carries go to, Chris Carson and Kenneth Walker, I mean, you're talking like a team that could be one of the best passing or rushing attacks in all of football, like, because they didn't run the football all that much last year. Mm-hmm. So if they can up the volume of running there, I mean, they could be just a killer team on the ground. And then, right, this is going to be a more horizontal offense than it's ever been before because they don't have Russell Wilson, who can only throw go balls anymore. You've got Shane Waldron, who came over from LA, the Rams. So we'll see how DK does in a more like horizontal like type of scheme, but like Fant and all their tight ends
they've got the guys. They've got the guys.
Win
for sure.
So can they be like the Colts? Like even with Geno, like or Locke or Baker, or they trade for Baker, whatever you want to say. Like, can they be the Browns of like last year? Yeah, I think they can. Can they be the Colts of last year? Yeah, I think they can. Like 5.5 wins with that offense, and then I guess there's the defense. I have thoughts about that as well. But whatever.
I have some thoughts about the defense too. I look, and I can't say that I'm particularly familiar with the Seahawks defense, but or like their scheme or whatever. But you look and like I know Jordan Brooks is actually pretty strong. I think the Bobby Wagner, like we obviously don't think that's that crazy of a loss.
It's not.
I thought Shelby Harris was a nice pickup. So who am I thinking of in the secondary who's nice?
Is it Quandre Diggs probably?
Yeah.
Quandre Diggs. They have Artie Burns, who's pretty good.
Well, maybe. Artie Burns was No, I mean, he was a historically horrible draft bust for the Steelers. I mean, terrible player.
But he's solid.
He might be. He had somewhat of a redemption tour in a very, very small sample size, but just like
maybe not. I wouldn't say elite corner, but like,
oh my God, no. Jesus.
No, I'm not saying he's an elite corner. And you're probably taking Sidney Jones over him.
Yeah. I mean, Artie Burns, like, maybe. Like, Artie Burns is someone who, I mean, Steelers fans will listen to this and can't believe that we're even talking about him as a potential positive. But Artie Burns, like, was somewhat all right for the Bears last year. Like, a pleasant surprise considering, like, he was borderline out of the league. But I mean, he didn't start, right? He played last
season. He had 219 snaps at a boundary corner or at like outside corner.
Yeah, that's not that many. That's 39. That's under 40% of the total defensive snaps last year. He's not like PFF may have said he did a good job in a small sample size, but also I don't care what they think, and it's a small sample size.
I've been going back through like my top 100, and as I watch a lot of games against the Bears because a lot of teams beat up on the Bears, but Artie Burns doesn't look that bad. Burns doesn't look that bad.
I haven't watched that much Artie Burns, but that's not the first name I would list when it comes to like the Seahawks corner. I would say like Sidney Jones. I would say Trey Brown is somewhat. Sidney Jones is like a decent player. Trey Brown is a decent player. They've got a good safety duo. Like if Artie Burns was like somewhat like ends up being, you know, closer to Bears Artie Burns and Steelers Artie Burns, like maybe the secondary is all right. Matt, I agree. You talked about like what they do on defense in the front seven. Like, yeah, Jordan Brooks is good. Yeah, Bobby Wagner is not this massive loss anymore. He can't flip his hips and run sideline to sideline. He's slow as shit now. Yeah. So he's like not athletic anymore at all. And then like Puna Ford, Al Woods, Shelby Harris.
Shelby Harris is a nice.
They drafted
Boye. Mafe is going to be a huge impact right away, but
they got Nwosu out of the Chargers, who's like like Darrell Taylor. Like the edge rushing group is going to be a very platoony type of unit, but I mean Darrell Taylor he started the last 5 games last year. I think that he had a 14% pressure rate, which is respectable. I think that he could be primed. I think he could potentially be a double-digit sack guy quietly. Nwosu, Boye Mafe. Like, it's not a horrible front seven. It's not a horrible secondary. It's not a horrible
I think
offense.
so. I think 5.5 wins. I'm taking the over is my point. I feel pretty good about that. I know they have a tough schedule.
They do. That's the thing that hurts me is like they have some guys defensively where it's like, okay, I could see the vision, but like week 1 they get Denver, and like that's already a tough matchup right off the bat. You know, they obviously have to play the 49ers twice, you know, the Rams twice.
This is not that hard of a schedule.
I think it is. They
could win 6 games in the first half of the season. I think Falcons
they can
winnable.
Beat the Falcons are win.
Lions winnable. Saints is winnable. Cardinals
Saints,
is winnable.
I think it's a tough game.
It's
Cardinals,
tough, but it's
I think
winnable.
They can win.
Winnable.
They're going to go in there. They're going to battle in that division.
And then Cardinals
Giants
again.
are winnable. Panthers winnable. Jets winnable. And like they always do a good job against the 49ers. Always. Pete Carroll always does a good job. So I don't think they're going to get swept by the 49ers.
In fact, that might be a team. I haven't really looked at all the over-unders, but if I had to pick like 2 or 3 this year to really go with, that might be one of the teams that I pick. So I wrote them down as exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
No, I think 5 to like I go back and forth between like 5 and 6 wins depending on like, does this game go their way? Does that game go their way? But I think it's close for me. I'm probably having them right around like meeting expectations.
Say under then. Say under if you're gonna.
I'll say under.
I guess 5.5. There's no way this is just a 2 or 3 win team though. I think. Yeah.
No,
so
I think
I guess
5 or 6 wins is very.
There's a clear difference between the Seahawks and like the Falcons. It's like the real like
bottom feeders.
I don't see how this team is going to go out there and win a significant amount of games. Like I could see, like if you told me the Seahawks had like 7 wins next year, even 8, like I wouldn't be stunned.
Yeah. Okay. So over.
That's Seahawks. Well, we'll say. I think Matt and Theo are leaning exceeding expectations. I'm kind of leaning under, but not by a lot.
I'd say I'm strong over.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it would surprise me if they're just like
maybe I am over because I'm leaning more like 5 to 7, so maybe that is over. But next team is the 49ers, 9.5. I think that's an over.
Why? What makes you say that? I agree. I'm just. Well, no, this 49ers team was very good last year with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. And, a lot of this is on the precedent that Trey Lance takes a step, right, and is their quarterback. But even if he isn't and they have to roll with Garoppolo again because he is still on the team, I'm not like what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Discouraged?
I'm not like discouraged, but that's not even the word I wanted. I'm not like shying away from picking I think the 49ers will win this division legitimately. Okay. And part of it is like, if they're facing a similar schedule to the Seahawks, which they kind of are, they play the Panthers, they play the Bears, they have a lot of these teams where it's like, I trust them to go into the Bears and win. No question about it. They played good games against the Rams last year. They play the Chargers, which maybe that's a tough game for them, but they don't have a lot of games where I'm like, I don't think they can win that. I think almost every single game on their schedule, they're at least as good, if not better than their opponent. They have a very good defense. Debo is assuming they keep Debo, right?
They're keeping Debo.
They're keeping Debo, but like there's a world in which they don't, I guess.
I'd bet my life that they do.
I have slandered Kyle Shanahan in the past, but the stuff that he does with that offense is truly remarkable. Their defense is still very talented. So I'll let you. I was just going to agree. I think that like you don't have to get too complicated with it. It's you've got one of the most creative offenses that challenges teams in a lot of ways. And if you gave them a quarterback like Trey Lance and he was legitimately good, they could do more. They would do more stuff and like threaten you in more ways than probably any other offense in the league or close to it. And I think that would make you a pretty great offense, especially with Samuel and Trent Williams and George Kittle. They'd have basically some of the very top best players at like every single position on offense too. And then on the other side, you have arguably, I think you could make a real argument for Bosa as like, top 3 edge rusher. He probably is. So
he's that.
Yeah, you can make an argument for one.
Yeah, according to Theo, he's the best.
Yeah,
I don't know if I think he's the best anymore. I don't know if I'm actually going to make that, but he is solidly in the tier of Watt and Garrett, right? Me, so
you have a tier 1 pass rusher. Yeah, that sounds. And what was the number? 10.5?
9.5.
9.5.
It's like
that's over.
Yeah,
I think.
looking at I look at my. And top
you're basically saying they're not going to go 8-8. That's essentially what you're saying, and I feel good about that.
No, they were a playoff team last year, and they were basically one play away from being in the Super Bowl. So, or like 4 plays away, I guess. But
they're Super Bowl contenders, and a lot of people are low on Trey Lance for reasons that I don't think are good faith arguments or smart arguments. Like they'll be like, oh, why didn't he beat out Jimmy Garoppolo last year? And it's like, well, Trey Lance is maybe the rawest prospect we've seen like ever drafted in the top 5.
Yeah.
He's just like, as a quarterback, he didn't really play that much in high school. He got 1 season of it in college. And you've got a guy who can take you a decent amount of the way in Jimmy G. Like, from the second they drafted him, they said Jimmy G's going to start all year, and that's exactly what happened. Same deal with Mahomes with Alex Smith. Like, Mahomes was super raw. His footwork was horrible in college. Like, he was a project, and Alex Smith was not as talented as him, and he started an entire year. And people are like, oh, why is Jimmy G still on the team? Why haven't they named Lance the starter? It's like, well, the market for Jimmy G is probably a little dry right now, considering the fact that
you want the 20th best quarterback for $25 million or whatever he's making. It's
right.
Like,
it's not that, and especially he had shoulder surgery and he sucked in the playoffs, which probably like lowered his value. And like, when is Jimmy G's value going to be higher? Right now? Or how about week 4 when some big quarterback goes down somewhere? Tell me when it's going to be higher, right?
Whose value is bigger right now, Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo's? Like,
both of them are low, but both of them are going to be
argue you could argue it's Garoppolo, except the problem is that the team that's really probably looking for a quarterback is the Seahawks. So it doesn't really, it makes it tough.
Yeah, so you're not going to trade
Jimmy G to the Panthers, question mark?
I think it makes sense. I think Jimmy G to the Browns makes sense. I think that he's maybe better than Brissett is, and Baker's not playing for you anymore.
Yeah, but the Browns already picked up Brissett as like they're like that's their backup.
Giving up even more picks, giving up even more picks after they just traded for Watson's a little dicey. Yeah. And
so then you have to like absorb, and then you're like trying to get rid of Baker's contract, and you have to absorb the Garoppolo contract. It's just like
I could see it, but anyway, I digress.
The
like
49ers,
what Kyle Shanahan is going to be able to do with a running quarterback, a mobile quarterback like Lance is going to be sick. Awesome. I think they have like 2 defensive player of the year candidates in Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. Eric Armstead's really good. I liked who'd they take? I should know this. The edge rusher, Drake Jackson out of USC, really good bend. They do a great job coaching up their defensive linemen as well. They got Chardavius Ward out of KC. Jason Verrett is going to be healthy, maybe, sort of, kind of. I mean, he's still there, and he's always been a good corner when he's healthy. Jimmy Ward's a nice role. Like, I think this could be a really good offense. I think that this is going to be a really good defense. I think they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Mm-hmm. I think they could. I don't know if I'm going to predict them to win the division, but I think they're going to have a double-digit win season, and I think they're going to be right there.
I'm absolutely picking them to win the division. But we'll get into the Rams, actually not right now, but we'll get into the Rams in a little bit. But it mostly has to do with the Rams.
So we're all exceed expectations here.
It's like, and it's not even close. You have to exceed with a 4. 9.5 is a crime.
Yeah, I do think 9.5 is a pretty strong line.
Yeah, so you take that no matter what. Go in the chalkboard app and and open your favorite sports book and
bet on it.
Put a bet on it over 9.5, guaranteed. Next is the Cardinals. Theo, you are low on the Cardinals. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I wrote my article about them and I made my video about them. And basically what it comes down to is just, I think their front 7 is dog shit, basically. Not to mince words, it's horrible. I mean, once JJ Watt gets hurt, and he's going to get hurt, I mean, you've got Marcus Golden and Dennis Gardeck as your edge rushers. You've got like these fine players in the interior of the defensive line. You've got 2 guys who have been basically big draft disappointments at linebacker in Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons. Like, neither of them have been what they were billed to be so far. Like, bro, that's so bad. Like, that's so bad. And then the secondary is Byron Murphy, who got off to a good start last year and then sort of faded down the stretch into what you'd expect a secondary of Byron Murphy and Marco Wilson to look like. They actually like were weirdly good to begin the year, and then they just kind of turned back into a pumpkin as the year went on. So it's like, maybe they can take a step still, but like, do I expect them to take a step when the front 7's not getting any pressure? I mean, they were the 5th worst team in terms of pressure percentage last year with Chandler Jones, and Chandler Jones had 51 pressures, and they just didn't replace him with anybody except for Myjai Sanders, who like, and I guess, what's his name?
The
3rd round pick out of SDSU. He's also so they got 2 third round.
I can't think of the name right now.
They got 2 third round edges, and the SDSU guy. Why do the name is like Cameron is coming to mind?
Is it
he's
Cam
more of an
Thomas?
Is that?
Maybe, yeah, that sounds
What
like
is
Cameron
he
Thomas. Look it up. Someone look it up. But anyway, he's more of an interior guy. Anyway, I think they're going to stink. I think their defense looks bad to me. Cliff Kingsbury is not him to me. Kyler has been inconsistent like the back half of seasons. D-Hop is suspended for the first 6 games. I think that their weapons are real good, like AJ Green and Hollywood and D-Hop for still 11 games, and Zach Ertz and the tight end they drafted
James
that we
Conner.
interviewed, James Conner and Trey McBride. Like it's not like the offense will probably be fine, like it was last year. Like it'll probably be all right. Kyler is good enough and the weapons are good enough that it'll be a good offense. But
that can be at least a league average offense.
Oh yeah, sure. But it's just the defense really concerns me, and just Kyler's fading down the stretch. Like I don't know if I trust him to be playing his best ball come playoff time, and I don't know. I just think it's someone in this division has got to be bad, right? And I think to me, I'm looking at it, or I guess I'm not going to say the over on all the teams. It's very hard for all the teams in the division to outperform expectations.
Well, the Cardinals line,
are the
it's
one.
9.5. It's 9.5.
I think because they could win 9. That's a winning record, and it would still be the under. And I think there's a very real chance they don't get to 500 this year. I think there's a very real chance that their defense. They've got a really tough schedule as well. I mean, I was going to say
they have the hardest schedule in this division. If you want to just like week 1 Chiefs, then they go Chiefs, Raiders, Rams, then they get Panthers, then they go Eagles, Seahawks, Saints, Vikings, Seahawks, Rams, Niners, Chargers, Patriots, Broncos.
They could dead ass lose all of those games. Like seriously, like I'm not kidding. Like it could be rough for them next year. It could be
their easiest games are like Panthers week 4 and then Falcons week 17.
Yeah,
and that's like they just don't have. They don't have cakewalk games.
Yeah, I would agree. I think under 9.5 is definitely the move there. I didn't have any super, super strong opinions about them, to be completely honest. I was kind of making this in the last 30 minutes, but
they're the team they're the team I've looked at the most. So this is just the THEO segment. Yeah. I don't know if you guys disagree or have any points that you'd very much like to contend.
I think you're right. I think Isaiah Simmons was overrated in the draft process.
That's because he's a Clemson guy and you just
Yes. You got me. I don't. And just the second that there's this graphic somewhere out there where they showed him lining up at like outside corner, and then the Cardinals took him, and it's like, man, didn't they do this with Hassan Reddick too? That didn't work out.
Deon Buchanan.
They just keep doing it, and they can't make that work.
Deon Buchanan to safety in Madden.
They sneakily have one of the worst front offices in the entire league. Like I think the Jaguars is still the worst one, but this one is so short-sighted, and just like they've taken like 5 offensive linemen in the last like 3 years in the draft, and it's been like 1 in the 3rd round, and he sucks. They haven't addressed the offensive line. They didn't replace Chandler Jones. They keep drafting linebackers because they keep fucking up linebacker. They keep trying to take these hybrid dudes who never work out, and they got Hollywood. They traded a 1st round pick for Hollywood Brown, not because it makes sense. Because Kyler was angry, so they like went and got his buddy, and they were like, "We need to get Kyler. Let's just get his friend from college." And they traded a 1st round pick for it. It's just like a dog chasing a car, and like the offensive line has rotted, the front 7 has rotted, the cornerback room has rotted. Like Steve Keim is not it as a GM, and they're lucky they hit on Kyler.
They're kind of like the New York Knicks. They're a little Knicksy, except they just have Carmelo Anthony right now. Right, so it's not so bad, but eventually they won't. And then you'll see.
Yeah. And then you'll see. Yeah. No, I agree. They're just like, they're a dog chasing a car. They're really not good. They're lucky. Like D-Hop fell into their like the one team more incompetent than them made a deal with them, and they look smart.
DeAndre Hopkins,
and they
fucking Texans, man.
They did the like punting on a quarterback after 1 year to take another quarterback is like a stupid move that signals incompetence like every time, except for going to Josh Rosen to Kyler. And it's like, you guys are so fucking close to being horrible, but they just keep escaping it from the skin of their teeth.
It's sad, but yeah,
you guys take the Rams. I'll chime in, but I've talked too much about the Cardinals.
Matt, we've talked a little bit about the Rams before, right? They got Bobby Wagner, who is washed. They
5
lost
years,
Von
$50 million. Certainly, he will make it to the end of that contract.
Certainly, Von Miller is gone. Odell thus far is not returning. Is there anything on this team outside of, obviously Donald, Ramsey, Kupp, and Stafford? Is there anything on this team where you're like, they got better?
No, I don't think they're like a better team than they were last year. But granted, like, what team is winning the Super Bowl and then improving on paper? Is there over under 10.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10.5.
Yeah, that's about. They probably can get to like, okay, I see it with that. Von Miller and Sebastian Joseph Day are two pretty big losses.
Odell
is a big deal. I know they got Allen
Robinson. That is one thing, is like Allen Robinson could come back and be like him, except I don't know if he's creating the vertical separation that Odell was. That might be the only thing you really miss.
Who else did they lost? They lost some of their offensive linemen as well.
Whitworth retired. No, or is he back?
Whitworth retired. Austin Blythe Corbett went to, one of them is in Seattle,
Carolina Panthers,
and one of them went to the Panthers. Yeah. So they've lost a lot of offensive linemen. They've lost Odell. They've lost Vaughn. So the people are like, how did they sign all these guys? It's like, well, they also lost a bunch of people. But
they lost a lot of guys.
Right. So they did lose a lot of guys, but you probably still have to trust them to be right around that area. Maybe I'm just not brave enough to pick the under on a team that just won the Super Bowl, but I still think they have pretty great weapons. I think they have, a top 10 quarterback. The Rams are one of those teams that always seems to they're always a step ahead when it comes to the offensive line, it seems. And I know they lost some pretty big pieces, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then defensively, it's like you still have the best player, arguably, in football. So then you have Ramsey out there. So they have a history of being ready to lose these guys, basically. So I think they'll probably be right around where their win-loss is, maybe 11, 12 wins.
That's fair. I think I will give you, like, the Rams and 49ers, I think, are one of the only teams that have like multiple guys in my top 20 from last season. So it's like the Rams are still going to be damn good, and so they're still going to be, really competitive, but games against like the Bills, they might lose that, right?
And is Odell necessarily not back?
He's not necessarily not back. No,
he's not back, but it's weird, right? Like, he's not back, but he's not.
He's a free agent. He's a free agent. Right now, we've got to work under the assumption that he's not there, though, I think. So, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, they could beat Dallas, but they might struggle. That's not a guaranteed win. There are 2 games against the 49ers. The 49ers always give them hell. Tampa Bay, that's going to be a tough game against Tom Brady. They got to play, the AFC West, which is a very tough division. So it's like, I'm not going to lock them in for over, but if it's like 10 wins and like 10 or 11 wins, and then the 49ers get that division with a solid 12, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at too. I'd say, like, if meet expectations is an option and say that it's going to be like within 1 win of 10.5 wins, like, I would probably say that 11-9. I agree with you guys. I think the high end talent there is still good enough that they can win this division. I mean, Kupp, like, what reason do we have to believe that Kupp is going to fall off? He's probably not going to have the seat. I mean, he's probably not going to
he's probably not going to
win the Triple Crown. So I guess there's every reason to believe he's going to regress, but like, he's still going to be a useful player. Aaron Donald is still going to be a useful player.
Yeah, I think
Jalen
those guys
Ramsey is still going to be a useful
well.
player. Their high end talent is just so good still, and
Right.
there was a
and they're
well coached. They've had probably the best coach in the league. So, there was a stretch last year where they kind of faltered in about the midway point of the season. They looked really good to begin, and they looked really good to end, obviously. And there was kind of that middle point. Obviously, if it looks like that middle point all year and everybody kind of takes a little bit of a step back, things could, like, Stafford is not exactly the most consistent quarterback in the world. But he's good. He's good. I expect him to be a top 10 guy all year. I mean, he unlocks a lot on the offense. I think, obviously with all the backside dig, which he always hits famously. But I think Allen Robinson, I'm kind of dubious about him. I think that there's a very real chance that he just kind of mailed it in playing on a franchise tag in a place he didn't want to be last year. But like, he wasn't, I mean, we've seen Allen Robinson play with bad quarterbacks before and put up numbers and be a really good wide receiver. Right. And that's not what he was last year, right? So you can't just blame the quarterback situation because that's what he's always had. So there is a chance that I think like he has really fallen off, but he's 28. Has he forgotten how to play football? Like, I can see both sides of that. Like, he hasn't. It would be weird for him to fall off the athletic.
Most people are leaning in the direction of he just was not trying last year, which I can buy.
I can buy that too. I don't necessarily.
But at the same time, it's like the thing that you're losing most with Odell Beckham isn't that he's a good receiver, which, like, obviously you want a good receiver out there, but you're losing the vertical separation, which is something that when they lost that against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl, their offense basically came to a standstill.
Yeah, Allen Robinson
until they got really creative with Kupp, but like.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is not quite the dynamic, like, separator that Odell is.
That's what I'm saying.
And Odell was, especially in that playoff stretch. So I think there'll be a worse. I don't think they're going to repeat. I don't think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl again. I don't think that they're this ridiculously stacked team that everybody seems to think they are after they paid slow Bobby Wagner. And they're like, this is so unfair. It's like, I would legitimately rather have Ernest Jones out there than him.
Hey, they still have Ernest Jones, though.
They do. So they do. So, and they kept Raheem Morris, their defensive coordinator, who everybody on that team just totally raves about and loves. So I think it's going to be good vibes. I think it's going to be, there's a lot of high-end talent.
Who is the other corner opposite of Ramsey?
Well, they traded for Troy Hill again.
Oh, that's right. Troy Hill's back.
But he's more of a slot corner than an outside guy. The cornerback outside of him is It is David Long Jr. Nick Scott is a safety there. He's got some potential as well.
I like their safeties. I'm just starting to think, like, if you're an opposing offense, you're probably going to try and expose that backside corner a little bit opposite of Ramsey.
Right. Ramsey also plays more in the slot than he did too. I wonder if that'll change with Ramsey was kind of their star role.
He played 340 snaps in the slot.
No, yeah, he was their star role. And I think that makes sense. These bigger bodies in the slot where they can come down and defend the run. If you have a big physical corner, first of all, these slot receivers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You don't want just this tiny guy in the slot anymore. And also, big physical guy in the slot helps be a better run defender. But
he goes against Kupp in practice every day.
Right, exactly. So. The Rams have the best guy in the league to defend Kupp, but the problem is they don't need to utilize it. But anyway.
But I mean, we've seen him guard tight ends before.
I think they'll meet it. I think they're going to win. It's 10.5. I think they're going to win like 10, 11 games. So
they will win exactly 10.5 games.
They will win 10.5 games. So yeah, that's where I'm at with them.
Well, before we get into our video game rankings this week, I just want to remind everyone to go join our chalkboard chat. The link is, of course, in the description of this podcast if you're watching on YouTube. And it's in the link. The link will be in our bio of all of our social platforms. If you want to just submit a question of the week for us to read, suggest what we rank on the Rank It segment, or you can just talk, about us with anything going on in sports, or in music or the rest of the world. Chalkboard is really the place to do that. It's a great line of communication from us to you guys, our listeners, so we can really help grow this community and build this podcast together. Plus, Chalkboard has a ton of cool features, like live box scores, so you can talk with us about a game while following along in the app. It's really just like an ESPN type of deal in there. And, by far the coolest feature is the live bet tracking. So you can see the bets that we and everyone else are making, and you can follow those bets, see how they perform. And if you want to copy our bets, you can do that as well. And you can connect, whatever your favorite sports book, is. So we love Chalkboard. We know you guys will too. So make sure you download the app, join the Stay Hot group, check the links on all of our social bios and in the video description. I think it's still only on Apple. But I will keep saying they're working on getting the Google Play, the Android app up soon. So as soon as that comes, we will be able to let you guys know about that as well. But today's Rank It segment, you know what the rules of Rank It are. You give us a topic and we rank it. Today's video games. So
I'm quite possibly the world's worst video game player. So I'm just going to get mine out of the way real quick. My 5 and 4 are 2K and Madden because I think they're fun and I play those a lot.
Just in general, not a specific
not a specific one. I don't know. Okay. I don't care. They're the same oh my God, whatever one when I was like 13 years old or 14 years old is my favorite one, just like everybody's. And then I will go with the Rockstar game titles like Red Dead and GTA. I enjoy it. I haven't even like finished those games story at all. I just go around and fuck around and like kill people and do, whatever I want. And then number 1, my favorite game of all time is Mario Kart. I love me some Mario Kart. I enjoy it. It's the one video game that I'm actually pretty good at. I'm a big Mario Kart fan. So this is the most casual, basic like video game list of all time. But I'm telling you, I suck at Rainbow Six. I suck at Rocket League. I suck at, every game. I suck at Call of Duty. I'm terrible at them. I don't play them that much. Those are my top 5. So I'll let you guys have the floor.
Okay. Matt, I know you're going to probably have Mario Kart up there.
Yeah, I'll throw Mario Kart at 5. That's also one of my favorites for the Switch. At 4, I didn't really have a list ready. Probably like Skyrim's got to be on that top 5. I won't order them, but I'll list off some. Skyrim's got to be top 5, or maybe one of the Fallout games. Those are all kind of like the same type of deal, just different settings, honestly.
You're gonna make like the video
Minecraft is obviously up there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Wii Sports Resort is in my top 5 for sure.
Okay.
The only 2 video games I'm actually like legitimately good at are Mario Kart and Wii Sports Resort Golf. I'm nice at Wii Sports Resort Golf, and me and my buddy Tavish play all the time. So that's got to be up there. And is that 4 or 5?
I think that's
if you
4.
count Fallout, Skyrim, Wii Sports.
Okay, I'll put Skyrim and Fallout New Vegas on there, and we'll call that the list. But I made a list of this a long time ago on TikTok. I have my top 10. It's on the Stay Hot TikTok.
Oh yeah, I think we all have our top 10.
All I know is that Wii Sports Resort would be higher than it was on that ranking.
I didn't make.
Oh, NCAA 14's probably got to be on there.
Yeah,
but this is a pretty basic list as well, I'm afraid.
I'm gonna give the honorable mention that neither of you mentioned, which is 2K16, the greatest 2K of all time. But as far as the top 5 goes, I'm gonna go Mario Kart, but the DS version. Because that's not a bad call, dude. That was awesome. You could play with 8 people. Only one person needed the game to play with a bunch of your friends. I thought that was really clutch. Lego Star Wars, all-time great video game. I love Lego Star Wars, and that's also part of my Star Wars bias.
You have a heavy Star Wars bias.
I do have a heavy Star Wars bias because really all the Lego video games are the same.
I think the new one's pretty good. I actually think that I haven't
gotten a chance to play the new one just because I've been so busy.
You got to play that one.
When I get a chance to like take a break, I'll be sure to play through that. NCAA 14, obviously. Right. I keep meaning to do this on live again, where I go through like a road to glory with myself at receiver. Relive my high school, and
wouldn't that just be rehabbing?
It's just coping. It's just coping.
Collarbone injury.
And then number 2, I'm doing Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2006 or 2005. That OG one. That game is so good. That game is so awesome. Every game mode in that is fantastic. I remember there was a night when I was real little. I stayed up for like 14 hours straight playing that game, and I beat the whole game. It was so much fun. I was sick the next day, obviously. And then my favorite game of all time is obviously Minecraft. Matt and I are going to be live playing Minecraft. Minecraft, here's the thing with Minecraft. Minecraft has been around for over a decade, and it has never once gotten worse.
Yeah, I think for a game that updates itself a lot, eventually I feel like stuff like that, it kind of jumps the shark a little bit. And I don't feel that way with Minecraft. Like, a lot of people talk about like, oh, remember when Fortnite used to be good?
Right.
But I wouldn't I wouldn't say that with Minecraft. Like, I appreciated Minecraft 10 years ago, but I think
here's the thing. That did happen. I mean, there was a point where Minecraft was on Fortnite level of cringe, and it was just like little kids who liked it, and then it just enjoyed this total renaissance. Like this,
because of the age of the people who were playing it. It got labeled as the 12-year-old game, and then eventually those people just got older, and it was all good again. Minecraft never got. And the same thing's happening to Fortnite. Fortnite is now the 12-year-old game. Give it like a little bit longer. It'll grow out.
Give it like 3 years, right? No, I think there was like a point I remember when I was like in middle and early high school where like anyone our age would have looked down on like, oh, Minecraft is for little kids, and now everybody in our grade would
I guess
never
that's
say
fair.
that.
Because the internet just hates people like that age with
as they should. Just kidding. Our fan base is that age.
My sister's 11, so I can't
look. If you are a teen, and anyone who's 11 listening to this, when you are like 18 to,
you'll get it when you're older.
You'll get it when you're older. Just like little kid stuff is like sometimes just like not, you grow on past. There should be a point where you grow on. There should be a point in a healthy development where you look back on what you did as a kid and say, I should move. That's for little kids. I'm going to move on to something more mature. Like a real TV show or a real movie.
Fuck you, Theo.
Some of us never have that, but that there should be.
One day you'll be watching Tom and Jerry, and you'll say, you know what?
This isn't one of the best TV shows of all time. And then it's okay. Like that's an important phase in growing, but like then you should be able to look back at it and say like, I shouldn't have been such a sullen teenager and hated on everything. So that's where
it's a very teenage thing to hate on everything. There's some other games I think I could have listed, and I'll just run them off. I'm not going to explain them. GTA 5, Destiny, Call of Duty MW3, Mario Super Sluggers, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, The Sims 4, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, Mario Party 8, Rocket League, and Wii Sports. Those are all qualifiable games.
There's a new Mario Super Strikers game for the Switch that's out. That's like a Mario soccer game, but you can like beat everybody's ass and have like power-ups.
Really?
I used to play that game so much as a kid, and I don't have a Switch down here, but
I don't have a Switch.
Yeah,
I need to buy a Switch.
I'm a big Mario Super Strikers fan. But anyway, any video game like purist is probably like a knife to a heart hearing us just say like Madden and Minecraft and like
it's just like
I'm with it too. I have the ultimate casual with video games.
I did play League of Legends for like a year, and it was a pretty fun game. But you can't play that game by yourself. You need to have like a squad that you play with.
I don't know if you guys want to like highbrow me, the people listening to this, over like my video game selection. You got it. I'll keep my like some of my real basic music takes to myself, or like maybe movies or something. But those are the video games I play. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I like to consider myself a pretty big video game player, but I don't know. I'm too busy to like really dive into it anymore. But I think that pretty much wraps things up for us, unless you guys have anything else.
Beal declined his player option just now.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
but he can still sign a big extension with the Wizards, but he could go he could go elsewhere. Or he could sign his 5-year $250 million deal with the Wizards, which isn't on
if you want to sign someone to a 5-year $250 million contract, I'm right here, man. Just give me a call. I will gladly accept that deal. But as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we'll be back with more content later this week and into this weekend. Don't forget, album comes out. The album live stream, it'll be 11 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, and then it drops at midnight, and it'll also be Matt's birthday. So
a lot going on.
Very exciting.
And it's also the 4th of July. It's perhaps the most important day of the whole year, all things considered.
All right. As always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.